Hey guys, how's it going? It's Zach, and today we're going to be doing some setup work here at Silverstone. We are in the Aston AMR V8, it's the 2020 rule set in ACC. And the fun thing for this track is it's going to be in the rain. Silverstone's typically a very high downforce track. Really benefits from having a lot of downforce. In the wet, we're definitely going to want to increase the downforce, but we're not going to be at the speeds that we are in a dry track. I've kind of been working on a wet setup. We have the race tomorrow. It's a 4-hour endurance race with RWB. It's part of their new endurance series. If you want to get involved in monthly endurance races, be sure to check them out. I'll put a link in the description of this stream when we're all said and done. Also, this stream is going to be kind of like a live Q&A. If you have any questions or, you want me to elaborate on anything or, ask me why I'm doing something, just let me know in the chat. I'll try to address it. But one thing we are going to go ahead and look at is let's look at the wet preset. So anytime you're working on a setup, you need to start somewhere. And truth be told, the ACC defaults are actually not a bad place to start. Typically what I'll do, my kind of workflow is, I'll just load up the aggressive preset in a typical dry track. I'll do, quite a few laps until I'm about 0.1, 0.2 standard lap time standard deviation. And what this is trying to do is really narrow down the driver variance so that I can make sure that setup adjustments are actually changing the time, not, driver error. And then once I'm, within that lap time standard deviation, then I'll start tweaking the setup away from the default aggressive. But we're going to do the same thing for the wet preset for the wet race here. Before we get started, let's just kind of talk about the Aston. Anytime you do setup work, you kind of want to look at the car and kind of consider it as a system to try to give you an idea of where you need to go with the setup. So the AMR V8, it's about 1,400 kilograms. It's a front engine car, so the weight bias is actually 49%. Wheelbase is 2.76. Track is 1.7. So we're gonna have a little bit more weight up front.
Fucking people just don't fucking read.
Oh yeah, 1 second, I'm streaming. But yeah, the weight bias is a little bit left forward, so we're gonna have to take that into account for the setup here. Typically, when we have more weight on the front, it means stiffer front springs and stiffer front dampeners to help dissipate that energy. But let's go ahead and look at the wet preset setup, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on here. One of the first things we're gonna do is set the PSIs for the track. Default 27.5. They'll probably come up 3-4 PSI on track. Toe is about standard. A lot of toe in on the rear. Toe in is gonna give you some slip on the rear, so it's actually going to have a little bit of a lateral force, and that lateral force is going to push in on the car, so it's actually a stabilizing thing to add more toe. Probably not a bad thing to do in the wet, but we'll have to see if we make any adjustments there. Camber 3.2, 3.8, so not quite maximum cambers. In the 2020, you are limited by how much camber you can give to the car. Electronics really aggressive on the TC ABS. TC2 is really high. We're definitely going to make adjustments there. You want to set your TC to kick in kind of to save you, but you really want to make sure you're developing a setup where you're not relying on these electronic aids. It's only going to hurt you in the long run. Fuel, we're going to load up 120 liters. Mechanical grip. Okay, so this is where we're going to start talking about things you need to consider in the wet versus a dry setup. It's no secret that in ACC, these cars produce a lot of downforce compared to GT cars in the past and other classes. Not as much as like an LMP or an open wheeler, of course, but they produce a lot. And because of that, we're gonna have a lot of pitch sensitivity. So that's one thing that we need to consider. But in the rain, because we're not going to be at the same speeds, typically you want more wheel compliance. To help you, get a little bit more grip, a little bit more mechanical grip out there. So typically what you'll see is, lower wheel rates, lower ARBs. ARB on the Aston is actually pretty small. The max is only 50 newtons per millimeter on the front. So it's pretty small, so we'll probably making a lot of spring adjustments here. And one of the things that, again, we want to increase that wheel compliance is the dampening. We'll probably run pretty soft bump and a little bit more rebound than we typically would with a dry setup. And that's just gonna help give again more wheel compliance. When you're doing a wet race, you're typically more point and shoot more than pulling a lot of G's through the mid corner. So that's why you typically get a little bit more grip with the mechanical there. Aero, you can look here, 73 millimeters on the rear, 60 on the front. They're increasing that front ride height just a little bit. The bottom is 55. I'm thinking they're increasing it to avoid puddles. Typically, you do that in real life. I don't really think it really makes that big of an effect in ACC, though. The setup that we have been working on, we're pretty much the rear ride, minimum front ride heights, and really there I've not detected any puddle issues at all. That's probably why the default's got it a little bit higher. Typical default, I think, is, let's see, I think it's like 55. Let's see, aggressive, yeah, 55. And you typically want to have the lowest ride heights possible because, again, the higher you increase that ride height, the more you're going to have lateral load transfer, and you're going to reduce grip. So typically you want to slam it as much as you can. That being said, wet, sometimes you get puddles and you want to have some clearance there, which is probably why they went to 60. So we're going to have a little bit more lateral load transfer, but again, we're at slower speeds, so it's probably not as big of a deal. Rear ride height, 73 millimeters. So they're only using about 13 millimeters of rake. And here's the interesting part that I thought, this isn't really the approach that I would take, but it's only got a rear wing of 6. And I'm guessing they don't have a lot of rear wing because they're running a really shallow rake. When you run a really shallow rake, your center of pressure is going to be farther back than it would be if you had a higher rake. So you don't need as much wing to balance it out. That being said, typically in the wet, what I like to do is try to produce as much downforce as possible, trying to get as much grip as humanly possible. So what I'll typically do is I'll increase the rake just a little bit. I'm definitely going to increase it from this, wet preset, and then add more rear wing to balance it out. And what that'll do is when we increase more rake, we'll get more downforce through the underbody. And then we'll need to add more rear wing to keep that center pressure where we want it. So we don't have over rotation, and then adding more rear wing in addition to balancing the center of pressure, it's also going to produce more downforce, right? So more grip. Brake ducts are going to be really important too. Brake ducts are really important for keeping your heart pressures where you want to and keeping the tires a little bit cooler. You have to be really careful when you're doing a wet race. This race won't be as big of a deal because, again, the race is pretty much going to be wet the whole time. Anytime you're going a transition, so a dry to a wet or a wet to dry, that transition is really critical, and you really want to set your brake ducts so that if you have to go to the wets a little bit earlier, you're going to keep those tires cool. But again, when the track gets cool, you don't want them to be over cool. So just a very important thing to consider. Brake ducts actually have a huge impact on tire temperature in addition to pressure. So yeah, let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and load this default setup. Let's do some laps. We're gonna get a kind of some baseline data and see how it goes. Before we do that, let's go ahead and load up the RST car parameters though. So I'm gonna do, I have some laps here. I'm just going to name this session. Anytime you name a session, it's actually going to change the name in the tree. So what I'm actually going to do is delete this first session, rename this second session to RST Silverstone Wet version 4. So this is the wet setup that I have been working on. Again, the setup work is going to take time. Even with tools like RST, Motec, it's not going to be something you just load in, do a few laps, and just know instantly the setup that you need to go with. You need to talk with your drivers, get some feedback, try to extract a little bit more time, and then see where you need to go with the setup. So this is actually our 4th iteration. We started 2 days ago. We're up to V4, and we're super happy with it. We pretty much did what we kind of mentioned in when I was talking about wet setups versus dry setups. But we'll see that, and you'll see that as we go on, as we develop this. So I'm just going to save that. That's going to change the name here. Let's go ahead and dial in the default wet preset for the car parameters. The car parameters are super important. I know a lot of you guys don't like the car parameters, but it's so necessary. The reason why is there's a lot of math channels that RST uses, and for RST to have the correct data through that math channel, you have to set the car parameters correctly. Otherwise, the data thinks it's in a different configuration than what it is. So it's super important to set these. And there's two ways you can do it. You can do it when you're in the pits, go to next car parameters, just like we did here, file, next car parameters. What this will do is these are the settings that the new session will pull in. That being said, if you forget to set these, which I do all the time, let's say you just go on track, get data, you look, oh God, I don't have any car parameters like this set. What you can do is you just click the car icon. When you click the car icon, that is going to edit the car parameters for that specific session that you're editing. So just really important factor there. And I'll go back and edit that once we get back to it. But let's go ahead and work on this one. I'm in the pits, not have any data, so I'm just going to go ahead and load up car parameters here. If you select the V8 Vantage in the drop down, this is going to load in the wheelbase, the tire diameters, the front track, pretty much everything we need. We do need to dial in the suspension, and that's pretty much it. The reason these chassis are dialed in and these aren't, or these are static elements, these are properties of the car. Suspension are specific to the setup, so that's why they don't fill in for us as we fill them in. So let's just go ahead and get these spring rates. It's 155. 155. Important note the units here. Newtons per millimeter is what RC wants. ACC gives it to you newtons per meter, so you just drop the 3 zeros to get it there. So here's the next really important differentiation: static height and static ride height, or FL ride height. What this is, the ride height is the stuff from the in-game menu. So what your setup is. Static height is the damper travel value at car standing still. You can do it two ways. You can stand still, make sure you get an absolute precise reading, or you can just do it while you're leaving the pits. That's what I do. When you're leaving pit row, you're going slow enough where it's not really going to make that much of a difference. But let's go ahead, type in these arrows. So on the front, we have 60 and 73. We don't know these, but just from experience, it should be around 16, 17. We'll edit those once we get some data in here. Front ARB rates, 3. So this should be, again, the Aston, which I just know from my real life experience, has about 50 newtons per millimeter of adjustability on the front. So 3, and it starts at around 10. So we're probably right around 15 newtons per millimeter. So I'm just going to dial 15 in here. If you don't know what it is, most cars are going to have about 100 on the front and about 50 on the rear. Aston's got a little bit less bar. Just, again, personal experience from knowing this. Go ahead and set the bump transitions. I don't know the transition speed for ACC are. I set it to 40 because typically dampeners are around 40. You can set this higher if you're want to make sure you don't get any low speed in your high speed settings. But all this does is affect the damper histogram text at the top, so it's really not that big of a deal. Rear ARB is a 3, so this is probably going to be about a 4 newtons per millimeter if I had to guess. All right, we got all that dialed in, so I'm just going to go ahead. At this point, we'd be good, but I'm just going to hit save. This is going to set up these car parameters for me, and I'm just going to call them default wet aggressive Aston. So I'm just saving these car parameters so they're just easy to tweak later down the road. But we got everything dialed in here. Let's go ahead, load in the car, and then we are going to go ahead and do some laps and get some data. Hope you guys are following along so far. I'm not seeing any questions or anything in the chat. Let me see. Oh, I just don't see anything in the chat. Speed definitely said something. Let's see. All right, let's see. I'm going to send a test real quick. Oh, nice. I don't see YouTube chat. Okay, there we go. I see YouTube chat now. Slobs is a little bit different. Sorry about that, guys. Getting used to the new configuration here. But hopefully you guys, I got a new microphone. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. Wanted to up the production value. So let me know if the game's too low or if my mic volume's too low or if we need any adjustment here. But again, we're going to load this wet just to make sure I loaded it correctly. Oh, that's the one we have and working on. I'm going to change the fuel, though. Let's do 120 liters. All right, let's go, guys. right, nice clear track. Let's get it. And let me know if you guys can hear my fan blowing in the background. I don't want to like annoy you guys, but it's freaking hot. Oh, that car just died. So let's just look at the conditions right now. 10C ambient, 10C track. Track is wet. It's probably about 30% wetness, I would say. You can use apps that'll tell you, like Coach Dave's Racing will tell you. But right now I can just tell you it's about 30, 40. And we're just gonna get some tire pressures and temperatures in the tires, and then we'll start pushing. Typically I do about 5 laps. So we'll just do 5 laps real quick. Car feels really slow because the electronic A's are really kicking in here. Yeah, see, there's no kill right there. I'm gonna go ahead and reduce them, guys. They're really slowing us down. I'm gonna let this car by real quick. All right, let's see. Let's go about 4 should be about good. Oh, got another car coming. All right, that should be good. Again, when you're doing setup work, you don't want to rely on the electronic gauge too much. They're gonna really hide the true nature of the car. I usually reduce them quite a bit and then add them later once we kind of have a balanced car. All right, tire temperatures are pretty much there. Got 60 in the rear, 55 in the front. Tire pressures are about 30, 31. Pretty good push through there. Got a little bit oversteer on the entry, got a little bit pitchy there. Just something to note. Got some traffic here. Let's try to get around them. Let's push out there. Really important for that corner too, to carry a lot of mid-corner speed through there. Gotta be really careful with these curves too. Here at Silverstone, these flat curves get so slippery when they're wet. We have our rain lights on. It's kind of dark here.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
Try to get around this guy.
Car on the right.
Thing is letting us
Clear on
through.
the right.
Especially for endurance races, you really want to focus on having a car that you can really drive, you know, consistently over the full race. Consistency is what wins endurance races, not outright pace. Rear pressure is a little bit higher. Probably where the oversteer is coming from. Nice thing about the traction control on the Aston AMR V8, it's actually got lateral control. That's what your TC2 is. can actually see it with the LEDs at the top when they light up. That's the yaw control coming in. See right there? Feels really good on the exit there. A lot of grip. Back getting a little loose there. This car is very pitch sensitive right now. Kind of hard to push it in certain corners just because I'm losing the rear a little bit. Oh, the understeer. We're actually getting kind of to the end of what would be the simulated race too, and I'm not really seeing any puddles or anything on track. Do one more lap after this and we'll go look at our data. So one thing when I'm looking at how pitch sensitive something is, typically I'll do it with bump stops. Bump stops are going to help add stability into heavy braking zones. They kind of keep that front wing from going any lower, and you load up the fronts quite a bit. But I think I'm going to do it with rear spring here. We're gonna add a little bit more rake, I think. Car really likes to under push on some of the high speed stuff. All right, let's do one more lap. Pretty consistently slower than our other setup. About 8/10 slower. This wants to push when I'm not trail braking right there. Needs more rake through there for sure. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm trying to explain everything that's going through my head right now as I turn these laps. See how pinch sensitive that is. That's crazy. It's a little bit of tail braking there, and it just dies at high speeds.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
All right, we'll cross the line, and then we'll go look at the data, guys. I think there's a turn off right here. Very nice. All right, let's look at it. Ooh, there we go. Wasn't seeing the cursor there. That was weird. All right, let's just check something real quick. All right, let's go ahead and pull up our data here. All right, cool. So this is the default aggressive. Again, I'm just going to change the name so I know what it is in the lap tree. Wet. This is the default wet, actually. Remember how I said we need to set these static ride heights? They should be close to this, but let's double check here. So we're just going to go to damper speeds. Anything with the dampener travel graph is going to give you what you want. So I'm going to select the out lap. You can tell us the out lap's got like 22 minutes there. Definitely not a fast lap. And you want to go to the beginning. That's when you're leaving the pit exit. One thing is, this doesn't really look like it's not really slow. Switch it to time. That's going to give you a better indication because there's going to be a lot more time than distance, right, in the pit lane. You're going slow. So if you switch it to time, you'll have a little bit more of a area over here to look at it. So what we'll go ahead and look at is we'll go type these in. So the rear left, the rear right are about 18.5, and the front is 15.5 at these settings. Let's go ahead and type that in. So 18.5. And then this is 15.5. So all I did that, again, click the car parameter icon on the left. Close that out. And I forgot to save this. So let's just go ahead and save this just so we have it. Just going to double check all this stuff. Looks good. All right. We're just going to say save, replace. And we're good. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and look at some of the data here. First thing I always like to look at with the car is going to be the roll gradients here. Roll gradients are really going to tell us a lot about the lateral stiffness of the car. So here you can see 0.457 on the front, 0.496 on the rear, 0.257 on the pitch gradient. So this pitch gradient is really high. I definitely felt it when going through some of those high-speed corners. Not so much in the low-speed corners when aerodynamics are not as big of an influence, but at high speed, I just gave it a little bit of brake and a little bit of steering input, and it just wanted to rotate on me. You want some rotation, but not over-rotation. So I want to reduce this pitch gradient, and typically I would do that with bump stops, but for this, we're going to actually reduce the rear spring just a little bit. When we reduce that rear spring, this roll gradient will go up a little bit. 0.457, 0.496. That actually isn't too bad. Let me see what we got over here for this setup. Yeah, that's not correct. Let me just type this in real quick. Should be pretty close. So this is a setup I've been working on for the wet. And I will show you guys this setup when we're all said and done. But I want to kind of go through the process. Hey, what's up, Moise? How's it going, bud? But you can see with this setup, it's a little bit less. But you can see the gap between this front and rear roll stiffness is a little bit less. That's going to give us a little bit less understeer. I was getting a lot of understeer in some of the low-speed corners. It just wanted to push, and that's just because of the rain. That's just because this gap is pretty narrow. Pretty wide. We want to make it a little bit more narrow. So two things that I'm trying to do is reduce this pitch gradient. That's going to give us a little bit more stability in the braking zones and some of those high speed corners. And I want to increase the low speed oversteer. Um, and one thing you can look at is stability. Stability is an actually really good graph. It's going to show you the theoretical yaw rate versus what the car actually did. Anything around 10 is a good indication. So you can actually see here, we got a little bit of oversteer coming in, a little understeer, kind of oscillates. This is a huge understeer region, and this is actually at Abby's. So we have some high-speed understeer. When we're off, when we don't have a ton of brake input, C50 is not, going to be a lot to cause that CLP to move too far forward, but we need a little bit more rotation there. So let's go ahead, look at the damper histogram. Again, the damper, when you look at data, guys, you really want to have some questions in your head, like, hey, what's causing this understeer? What's causing this oversteer? And try to answer it. Don't just look at the data and see what's going on. It's not really going to guide you anywhere. You really want to use data to help point at something. One thing that we can see is the front's got more of a rebound bias. Rear's got pretty symmetric here. That's actually not a bad thing. Rebound bias in the high-speed turn is going to give us a little bit more turn-in. Let's look at the modal analysis. Let's look at... trying to think what corners I was having really bad oversteer. It's kind of through here. Let's see. Yeah, right here. So you can see this is a good indication if I caught some oversteer here. The roll reduced and then it increased again. And that's probably because I was trying to catch a slide here. And we're getting about 10 Newton millimeters of pitch here. We're actually getting a lot of oscillations here too. So these pitching oscillations are not very good. We want to see if we can try to reduce this. And you can see their oscillations just because they're, vibrating. We want more of a smooth line here. So I think when we reduce that rear spring, it's going to help that just a little bit. So let's not make too many setup adjustments. I don't want to, do too much. I'm trying to fix two things really. I need more mid-corner turn-in, and I need a little bit more stability on the heavy braking zones, which is the pitch gradient. We want to try to get that pitch gradient down to about, 2.3, 2.4. It's at 2.6 right now. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go into setup. And what we're going to do is reduce this wheel rate. That's going to... Again, that's going to add a little bit more. That's going to improve that pitch gradient. We're having a little stiffness up here. Bump stops are fine right here at this setting. What I want to do, though, is let's add some wing here. And I'm really not feeling the ride height is making any difference at all. So we're actually going to drop it to 55 millimeters. If I was going down the straight and I was getting like really hard steering inputs, that's probably me hitting some puddles there. That would be a good indication you need to increase it. I wasn't feeling that, and this is actually kind of the end of the race. So this is kind of the worst case scenarios, and there's just not many puddles here. So I think we'll be fine here. Everything else, let's keep the same. Let's go ahead and drop this, though, to what we had on track. And then we need to change these pressures. Whoops. Thank you, FX, for letting me know. I got to get used to doing that. Cambers felt really good. You can look at the inner middle out. Inner middle out is kind of so-so when you're coming into the pits for it. What I like to typically do is we'll just go ahead and look at... We want to look at absolute... So temps, absolute temps, T's and P's. These are our actual temperatures and pressures on track. So we want to find our highest spot and then reduce it by that amount. So you can see this rear left's got a ton of pressure in it. So I'm shooting for about 31 psi. So let's drop the rear left at 1 psi. So 26.5. We want to drop the rear right about 0.3. Front left about 0.3. Yeah, I got it up right now, FX. And then the front right, we need to come up about 0.7. So 28.2. So that should give us the pressures we need to get that 31 psi in the wet. And I'm not exactly sure, especially with the new update, if 31 psi is the go-to. Typically, we use intermittent out. That being said, intermittent out when you're coming into the pits is not really reliable because the tires really cool down a lot coming down the pit lane. So I kind of just shoot for 31. What I will typically do though is if I don't have intermittent out data, I'll just try 31 psi and then I'll go up like 0.5 psi and then compare the data. If I'm pulling more lateral G's at a different pressure, then that's a good indication that I'm going in the right direction, right? Eventually I'll go too far in pressures and it'll reduce in lateral G's, but you're trying to maximize that lateral G. So that's one way to do it. Everything else is pretty good here. I don't think we need to make a dampener adjustment just yet. So just to recap, we changed the pressures. We dropped the rear spring a little bit. That's going to help that pitch gradient. We're going to bring it down just a little bit. And then we increased the rear ride height. Sorry, we didn't increase the rear height. We dropped the front, which is going to increase the rake. And we added more rear wing to balance it. So I'm just going to say RST demo stream. And then it's really important when you name your setups to have an indication of what you're doing. So I always do V1, which is like, hey, this is my first iteration. And what I'm going to say is wing plus ride height, front ride height minus. And then spring, rear spring minus. So this is just a naming convention that I have. Hey, what's up, Tommaso? Hey, thanks for the subscription, man. Really appreciate it. We're going to save that, and then we're just going to give this a quick go out on track and see how it handles. All right, and we have RST. So you should be able to see it FX. Oh, got a car stuck in the pit lane here. Not sure what that was about, but okay. All right, we're going to take it kind of easy. You don't want to push too hard on the outlap and get graining, and there's a bunch of bad stuff going on, so. And already tell this is feeling a little bit better in the high speed stuff. So when you're increasing the rake and adding more rear wing, you're gonna have the stability at high speeds, but you have to be careful in the low speed sections. The car's gonna rotate a lot more. Which again, I don't know if you remember, but that was one of the issues that we had, right? The low speed understeer was a little bit severe. Might even add one more click of rear wing, to be honest. See how much more turning I have there? I'm not waiting for the car to set. FX said, yeah, it's fine, mate. Second method is down to YouTube. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I just want to make sure because I'm not 100% sure I got the stream all set up correctly. Can be way more aggressive on the brakes now than I was able before. That pitch gradient coming down. Tire pressure is looking good, right around 31 psi, which is what we want. Need a little bit more wing, I think. Trail braking there feels really good, but I can tell getting a little bit bouncy through there. When you have more downforce from the rake, the car becomes more pitch sensitive. because more of the downforce has come from the underbody.
Yellow flag is set to 1. There's a slow car there.
Can push so much better here though. I think we might increase the ARB front on just a little bit. Car feels a little bit too much oversteer now in the low speed stuff. It's not too bad, but I think I want to move the bias forward just a little bit. Everyone's dying. Again, in these endurance races in the cold, you want to be very consistent. A lot of people are going to make mistakes. That's where you can make a lot of time. Got a little bit of wheel spin on that curve there. Just do like another lap, and we'll see how it goes. How's it sound, by the way? Is sound all good? Volume levels okay for the game and my mic? Should have left it in third there. That was a stupid mistake. Awesome. Ah, god damn it, I missed that. Looked at the chat and missed my braking spot. Awesome. What line do you take, Moise? Speed Demon's got the pole right now on the other setup that we've been working on, which I'm kind of developing that setup for you guys live, so you guys can see how I use the tool. Yeah, I love this car, dude. It's so much fun. We're actually using it for the 9 hours of Imola, hosted by RCI. So a lot of esports will be racing James Baldwin, Nils, all the big guys, which is really cool. Me and Speed have been prepping for that quite a bit. But let's go and look at the data. All right, let me get the keyboard here. Go back to the garage. And let's look at the data. So we have this session in here. So I'm just gonna, again, always name your sessions. It just becomes so much easier. So this is ride height, front ride height minus, and then rear spring minus. And then what was wing plus. All right. And hopefully that'd be so embarrassing if this thing crashed on me in front of you guys. So hopefully it doesn't do that. But T's and P's were much better. And if you guys are wondering how I'm getting it to auto fit, if you hold control and double click, it'll fit the Y axis, which is really, really nice. Yeah, you can see my pressures now pretty much set perfectly here. 31. All right, so let's go ahead. What we did not do is I kind of did this to show you guys. I didn't do the car parameters. I made a mistake there. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment for you guys. Yeah, I'll be streaming the race too, Moise. And one thing I just saw is this chat box is like in the middle of the chat. So let's just add this here. Sorry, getting the stream all set up for tomorrow. Okay, so let me look at the rear was 145, and then again we changed this front from we went to 55. So that should be there. But again, these static ride heights are going to change. So let's just go ahead. And again, what you do is you look at the outlap. And if you get this, guys, just go to handlings. There's something weird going on. I'm trying to fix that in the next update. But what we're going to do is come here and we're going to look. And these travels will be slightly different, which you can see. Anytime you make a setup adjustment, they will change. So we need to make sure we account for that. So again, time, go to the pit exit when you're pretty much just rolling down the lane and look at the they are. So 19.7 on the rear. So again, we increased that rear ride height, so that's where that's coming from. And then 15.5 on the front. So we decreased just a little bit on the front. All right, and then 55.73. Again, save this. I save every time I do it. I just say run one, so I just save it as I go on. But let's go ahead and compare. So what we're trying to do is decrease that pitch gradient to give us a little bit more stability. And then increase the roll gradient difference. Maybe what we'll try next is bringing the roll gradient down just a little bit. We fixed the tire pressures. I'll show it to you guys. Before they're a little bit high, so I just ABS TMP, and some people don't know what this stands for. It stands for absolute T's and P's. If you see tire temps, that's using intermittent out, and it's telling you what you need to set your pressures and cambers based on tire temps. ABS CMPs, those are the absolute tires pressures and temperatures, so that's what the naming convention is. We'll probably change that in a later pit. So many people get confused by it. But looking here, you can see pretty much, our tire pressures are right around 31 psi, so we're good on the tire pressures. Let's go again to handling, and let's look at the roll gradients here. So I'm just clicking on these two laps just to kind of compare the two here. And you can see we have a 469.509. So a difference of about 0.04, and the pitch gradient actually went up. It didn't go down. And the reason why the pitch gradient went up is because we added some rake here. So reducing that rear spring didn't add enough to help reduce that pitch gradient. So we are going to have to use some bump stops here to bring it back down. I really don't want this to be more than about 2.3, 2.4. So we'll add bump stops to bring that down. This roll gradient's much higher, but the front roll gradient's a little bit higher too. So we need to bring that down. The car's feeling a little bit sluggish. Roll gradients are a really good indication of responsiveness in the car. If the car you steer and it feels like it's a little bit slow to steer, like it feels like it's rolling the other way and it's just slow to respond, that's typically a car that's too soft laterally, which a roll gradient will kind of guide you to. So if we look at the default wet, front's pretty much the same, but we increase the rear. So we're just going to go down a little bit on the ARBs. We're going to increase the ARBs just a little bit. We're adding some wing too. Wing felt a little bit unstable. And we can actually look at the lateral stiffness through, let's see a high-speed turn here. Like Abby's. Yeah, here's a good one. So this graph looks like rubbish, and it is rubbish if you look at it on the whole lap. What you really want to do is zoom into a corner where you're really interested in and compare it there. So I'm actually going to look at this high-speed corner Abby's and see what's going on here. So this is Abby's. You can see it's that right-hand kink. It's really high speed. It's like 200 kilometers per hour. So downforce plays a huge role here. And we're looking at the lateral stiffness distribution. If you look at this weight, you really want this to be right around 5% aft of your center of gravity. Center of gravity is 49. So we're about 0.3, 0.4. So we're pretty good here. But you can see when something happens right here and it just dips down quite a bit here to 45. So our lateral stiffness position goes in front of our center of gravity, which is going to add some oversteer here, which you can see with the neutral steer channel. It spikes right when we hit this curve, basically. So we're add a little bit more wing here, and that should help that a little bit, just a little bit. And you can see if we look at the ride heights, we get that sharp dip here in the rear left where that thing loads up. And I'm just looking at the lateral acceleration. Lose a little bit of lateral acceleration, but not too much. Let's look at the center pressure. Yeah, look at the center pressure right here. Just shoots down here. So again, to help with the center pressure, we can reduce that pitch gradient, or we can just add more wing. I think the car needs more wing in general for this rake. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna increase the wing another click. Again, you always want to add as much wing as possible. I'm gonna reduce the front brake ducts just a little bit. That should give us a little bit more pressure. They're getting a little bit low near the end. Dampeners. Okay, this is where we're gonna want to look at the pitch gradients again. We're gonna affect the ARBs. I need to bring this number down because we've reduced rear stiffness, we've increased rake. Car feels a little sluggish. I need to bring this a little bit more responsive because it's a little bit hard to drive right now. So I'm gonna do this with ARB. So I'm gonna bring this up about 5, and that should add some stiffness up front. Bump stop gap, we're gonna reduce it, but reduce it to about 4 here. So this is gonna engage sooner, lower rate, but by the time it gets to 8, it'll actually be more force than it was before. So this is again to try to get that pitch gradient to where we need it to be. Everything else I think that's good. Toe felt really good. Camber feels really good. Again, intermittent out, we're about 6 on the front, 5 on the rear. So that's, you know, cambers are set pretty good. I'd again be kind of wary of the intermittent out for ACC. It's when you're in the pit lane, so they kind of cool down a little bit. The next thing was, let's go run this, see how the car feels, and then we'll dive into dampeners. I think there's a little bit we can do to increase some of the dampening, but let's save this. So this is going to be V2, and this is always do it from what your last setup was. That's why I do V2, V1. So V2, wing is another plus. Front ARB is a plus. And did we reduce anything? Bunt stop gap, minus. Okay, so we're gonna save this. And let's go ahead and load.
You need to swap the screen again, mate.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got everyone reminding me. Thank you guys. Let's see with the track conditions. Gonna be raining quite a bit more here soon. Ooh, cold tires, cold tires. Take it a little bit easy. One thing you got to be mindful of too, guys, is the bump stop gap and the rate. You have to be really careful because a bump stop is a non-linear term, so it, you know, ramps up really quickly. And in tracks like Imola or Zolder, where you have a lot of curbs, that really can be detrimental for you. Silverstone's not that big of a deal because we're not really riding a lot of curves. A lot of the curves at Silverstone are flat, or they're sawtooth curves, which we can't like take advantage of anyways. I'm just trying to get some pressures up here. Feels weird, I didn't remember to plug in my motion rig. I'm so used to moving around in my seat here.
Yellow flag in sector 2.
All right, pressure's a little bit low, so let's do another warm-up lap.
Be careful with it.
Coming out of the pits here. Let's see who that is. Should be no factor. Car feels so much better through stow. Little bit of push through there though. When I get on that throttle, I can just feel it wanting to push out a little bit there. Ooh, don't get on that curb. Way better through Abby's. Felt way more grip through there. Abby's is such a crucial corner too. It's a pretty decent sized straight. Hey, what's up, Madley? How's it going, bud? Welcome to the stream, man. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Getting excited for the race tomorrow. All right, let's push this next lap. Car balance is really good. It didn't have really understeer, oversteer, just kind of four-wheel drifted on me.
Yellow flag in sector 2.
I think I need to be a little bit softer on rear bump. Any little bump I can feel. Up on our Delta though. See you, Moise. Thanks for tuning in, man. Hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. There we go, guys. All right, there's gonna be 2 tenths up on our Delta, so we're definitely going the right direction here. Car feels way better. I can push it a lot more than I was before. Way more stable. High speeds. Doesn't understeer at the low speeds because of the rake. This setup will be available on the RSC Discord, guys, after the race. Gotta have any advantage I can get. It will be available for after the race, though, guys. Losing a little bit of time there on the exit. Just getting a little bit of understeer on the exit. And I missed my braking zone. There you go. Alright, see you, boys. See you in a bit.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This setup's feeling really good. See if we can make a little bit more tweaks, though. Fine tuning, though. We've gotten to about 80% of a good setup, I would say. Much better than the default. I can push way harder. Feel more consistent than I did with the default. And that delta is for our setup that we developed with me and Speed Demon for the race. So we're pretty much on pace now. Let's go ahead and look at the data, though. We're just gonna pull over to the side. Return to the garage. Let's load up the, again, what do we do? Wing plus, bump stop gap minus, and what else did we do? I think that was front air B plus. Really important to have a naming convention here. And again, you can see it when I go to RST. The names will be in the left hand, which is really, really nice. So looking at these times here, you can see on the default aggressive, we did 208s pretty much. When we went the last setup, we went 208.4, so we went in the wrong direction. But we need to make a little bit more adjustment. Now we're doing 207s, so we're definitely going in the right direction. Let's go ahead and do the car parameters though. Again, you need to. I didn't set them in the next car, so I need to set them now. I'm gonna set run 1. The difference here was the ARB rate was about probably 30, and the bump stop gap was a little bit higher. And then we're just gonna save this as run 2. This is why it's really nice to just save, because then I can just, load, change like a few little things, and then be back on it. Again, I need to look at the damper travels on the exit of the pit lane here. So let's go ahead and look here. So 19.5 and 15.5, is that what we had in? Yeah, so there wasn't really much of a change here because we didn't really change the ride heights or the spring rates. So we'll just make that change. Really important to always set that though, guys. All right, I'm gonna set this back to distance, and let's go ahead and look at the roll gradients. So we are going in the right direction. The pitch gradient did decrease a little bit, but I think I want a little bit more. Again, I want that to be right around 2.4. 4.3 on the front, 4.9 on the rear gradients. So we came down about 0.02 on the rear roll gradient, which is really, really good. That's kind of where we want to be, and we came out quite a bit on the front. Front came down quite a bit, again, because of that bump stop engagement. Let's look at the aero here. We were actually looking at lateral stiffness distribution. And for Abby's, which is right here. Okay, so this is Abby's, guys. This is where I went wide here. So let's see, where was that? Was it at Abby's? I thought it was. Trying to remember where we had that issue where we resolved it. Okay, here it is. So you can see that weight transfer went way far down, which just means we had a lot of oversteer there. Had it a little bit still there, but a lot better actually. And I'm wondering if that's actually the exit, not the entrance. That might be the exit onto like the straight of curbs. I still want to go down on the pitch gradient though. It still up a little bit too aggressive here. One thing to know if you're going in the right direction, guys, is look at your track. 1.34 G was the overall grip matrix. 1.38. What did we do on this one? 3.9. So we did pull a little bit more G's with the slower setup for that lap, but not consistently. What's the default wet set to? 3.6, 3.56, 0.36. So you can see just with the added rake and the more rear downforce, we're pulling like 0.02 more G's through this turn from like 0.36 down to pretty consistently 0.38, 0.39. So we're going in the right direction. We're pulling more lateral G's, which means we're going to pull more speed, which means quicker lap times. One thing I do want to see though is look at the differential. Haven't messed with the brake piles. Let's see if we can make any adjustments here. So what I'm looking at is for heavy braking zones. Let's compare the front lock compared to the rear lock here. So here is into like club. We're at 3.6 on the front, 2.6 on the rear. Let's look at a few more points. Let's see, 3.4, 4.4. Actually, the brake bias is pretty close. I don't think I'm actually gonna touch the brake bias. Again, default wet setups are actually pretty decent. It's definitely a good place to start. Let's look at the stability again. I kind of like the stability just to give me kind of a heads up of general picture what's going on. We definitely had some issues coming through here. A little bit better, a little bit more understeer now. That's what anything below the 0 line's understeer. You can see there's more peaks here, but these peaks that are going above, they're a lot less now than they were before. Like you had all these peaks. One thing I do want to do is let's look at wheel loads, and I want to look at actually not wheel loads. Look at the modal analysis. I want to look at the pitch. Let's look at the pitch going down the straight. I want to see if we've improved it or made it worse. So you can see all these oscillations with this setup. Let's see. Yeah, this looks a little bit worse. It doesn't look too much. What I really don't want is a lot of oscillations, like really fast, like, you know, high speed. If I keep going on the front bump stop rate, I might see that. So that's just something to be on the lookout for. Let's look at the run graph here. Let's see, total grip. So we still had some more grip that we were producing. So that kind of tells me the tires are still getting temperature and pressure into them. Let's look at the damper histogram too, just to get an idea of what's going on. So we haven't really adjusted anything here. So the damper histograms look pretty similar. One thing I'm looking at is the 0 node. How high does this go? The rebound, the bump bias, and then on this high speed rebound. High speed rebound, I always want the front to be a little bit slower rebound speed than the rear. Gives me a little bit better in the high speed section, a little bit more stability. I think on the rears we have a little bit of a bump bias. I could definitely feel it. So I think I'm gonna make a slight bump adjustment here. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and increase this bump stop rate just a little bit more than what I was. And then the dampeners again, is that low speed? So okay, this is really important, guys. When you're doing this, if you're not looking at the histogram, if you're looking at the dampener speeds, if you're like, hey, I'm getting a bump on track at this specific spot, what you can do is you need to determine if it's high speed or low speed. So if you go to dampener speeds, look at the bottom graph. You can actually see if there's any curves that are in high speed or low speed. Anything above 50 is going to probably be around the high speed section. So you can see there's a bump that I'm hitting right here. That's probably upsetting the car just a little bit. That's a high speed bump, but everything else in stow is low speed. So if I were having an issue on the exit, I wouldn't touch the high speed dampeners. A lot of people make that mistake. So you always want to check going into it. Let's see. I want to see here what's going on. So here's a compression zone. Rear left, rear right are compressing. And then again, a little bit of a rebound here. Not too many oscillations though, so I'm not too worried about that. Again, I think I'm gonna just decrease the bump like 3 clicks on the rear. And same thing with the front. Just make it a little bit softer in general. again, in the wet, you really want to increase that wheel compliance anything you can, because you're basically hanging on to everything you basically can in terms of compliance and grip. So what we're going to do is bump rate plus, bump dampening minus. I think that's the only changes we have done. One thing I do want to look at real quick, guys, is the low speed turn. What is that called? I forget the name of the turn. It's like the stadium, I think, or I don't know, Brooklands. That's a low speed turn, so I want to look at what the balance of the car is doing there, just to make sure. Yeah, it's not too bad. Right around 55, 57, which is not too bad. Again, you want that to be about 5% rear of the COG. COG is 49 here, so we're like right around 6, which is a little bit more on the safe side, which is probably good for, you know, a setup like in the rain. I always typically want something a little bit more safe than a little bit too sketchy in the rain. Again, these endurance races win with whatchamacallit, reliability, like not reliability, but like when why can't I think of the word repeatability, like just being consistent here. So let's see, 0.26. So I went 0.26. Let's go up to 8 actually. Again, we can go a little bit more aggressive here because we're not really riding a lot of curves. Let me just check to see the wife has not called or anything. Yeah, we're good. All right, see you, Madly, man. Thanks for tuning in, bud. All right, we got someone coming out of the pits. Be a little bit easy here. We got cold tires. Go to
Screen.
yeah, there we go. Thanks, man. I gotta get in the habit of that. Sorry, guys. Oh my god, that feels good right there. You can really feel that bump dampening helping. I'm not getting as much like little snaps of grip loss like I was before, and that's just because the wheel's more compliant now.
Yellow flag ahead. Watch out in front.
All right, tires are good to go. Let's push. This is P2 out in front of us. Let's see if we can stay with them. Yeah, this is feeling really good. Always looking at the tire temperatures. Temperatures will give you a good indication of what the balance is too, guys. See, that's why it pays to be consistent. Let's go, 410s. Lost a little bit of time on that curb. There's not really much you can do about losing grips on the curbs here. They're just flat, and there's not too much you can do. It's not a compliancy issue. It's just a slippery issue. Got a little bit loose on the exit there. Oh, yep, that was my mistake. I was trying to push a little bit too hard there and I got on the curb. All right, let's get these tires cleaned off and we'll go back out. I think pretty much, guys, the setup is where it needs to be. We might make a few damper tweaks here, but I think overall it's really, really good. Much better than we had with the default aggressive. As I hit a curb and run wide. Let me know if you guys have any questions on anything that I've done or anything you need to consider. I'm trying to make these kind of like a live Q&A, so you guys can, ask any questions or. Wish I could see that a little bit better. It's kind of hard with the single monitor. I don't really see the exit as much as I would like.
Yellow flag is acted.
All right, let's push. There we go. That's a super good exit there. Tire temperatures on the rear 70, 62 in the front, so we're definitely using the rears quite a bit here. Definitely a different beast at night. So hard to see like all the apexes. There we go. Come on. Give me that 2/10. I lost it on the exit just a little bit. One more lap.
Not late. Personal fastest lap. Yellow flag ahead. Be careful.
You can lose so much time on the curves here just because you get into the TC. It's unfortunate.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
And really just slide it through there. Come on. Let's hang on to it. I threw it all the way. Pretty good exit though. I'll be a 2/10. So as I get closer to a good setup, it takes me more laps to really think about what is going on and needs more work. Let's do one more and then we'll have some data to go off of for a few more damper adjustments. See if we need to make anything. Overall, this car feels really quite good. I feel like I could easily drive this car for 4 hours. Don't think I could go up much more rake and rear wing, just because I think it's gonna make us slide a little bit too much.
Slow car ahead. Yellow flag, be careful.
Missing that turn quite a bit.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
I think we should have a pretty good result tomorrow. Speed Demon's still way faster than me, like a second and a half. But I think with our setup and then with him being quick and me being consistent, I think we'll be able to have a pretty good result tomorrow. Race is at 12 o'clock my time. If you want to check it out, I'll be streaming the whole race.
There's a slow car ahead.
All right, yeah, we didn't really improve. Pretty much within a tenth every time there. All right, let's go ahead and pull over, look at some data. really close to being there. I think there may be some little details we can change here. But let's take a look. So again, we want to load up the run 2 setup here. Only thing we made an adjustment was on the bump gap and bump rate, so we won't make a change there. We do need to make sure we have the same static ride heights. So let's just check again, time, and then we'll go to stability, and then here it is. And then you can see 19.5, 15.5. Yeah, so we're good there. All right, so let's look at those roll gradients. Still coming down a little bit. Still a little bit high, though. I'm not sure why they're not coming down. We are definitely using that bump stop engagement. We got that 0.06 roll gradient difference between front and rear roll gradient, so I'm really happy with that. That feels really good for me. Anytime you find a roll gradient distribution front compared to rear and it feels really balanced, write that difference down. 0.49 minus 0.43, save that number. Anytime you make spring adjustments or ARB adjustments, that'll really kind of guide you, because you can actually calculate the lateral stiffness from roll gradient. So it's a really good measure of what the stiffness is laterally. Let's look at the damper histograms though. It doesn't really look like much of a change. That, three clicks a bump. That's the one thing that's weird with ACC, is like sometimes you really don't notice a change here when you make a lot of setup adjustments. You can see there is definitely more bump here on the rear left, so that's good. Really not having too many issues in terms of think we could maybe use a little bit more rear rebound just to get that rotation, but I'm kind of hesitant to do it, to be completely honest. Feels quite good where it's at. Let's try it. Let's just do rear rebound. Let's just go up like 3 clicks. I always do things in 3s. It always kind of seems to be a good amount of adjustment here in ACC. You don't really know how much you're changing the dampening rate because it's not published. Rear rebound plus. So increasing rear rebound will cause me to unload the rear tires faster in trail braking. So it should help me get around that low speed section a little bit better here. Let's look at one thing I do want to look at is let's look at the pitch again. And not pitch gradients, modal analysis. I want to see how much we're pitching down stow here. So I'm looking at these oscillations right here. Let's see. This is the pitch slowly changing, right, as we get back on throttle. We have a huge change right here, and that's because, remember, we softened the bump dampening just a little bit here. We don't have that. That bump's a lot less pronounced. It's a little pronounced there. I'm trying to, it's kind of, one thing I wish we could do is like select a selection on RC and then look at the frequency domain for it. We don't have that yet, but you can kind of tell just by looking at the oscillations and seeing if they're getting worse or better. Really not seeing too much of a difference there, to be completely honest. This bump stop feels really good though. Really not gonna make any more adjustments there. Let's try this rear rebound. Oh shit. And then go from there. I think this is pretty much it though, guys. Why is it not saving a plus sign? Wow, it doesn't like plus signs apparently. Alright, well we'll just keep it this one. This is with 3 clicks more rear rebound. Always had a Formula 1, or not Formula 1, Formula SAE instructor tell me, do bump for the tires, tire compliance, or if you need more bump to increase tire temperatures, but do it for the tires, rebounds for the driver. It's always kind of been a good rule of thumb here. If the car feels like really unpredictable and really hard to drive, just try a little bit more rear rebound, or more rebound in general. Especially on corner entry and corner exit in those transient phases. Always forget, tires are cold. I'm gonna let my dogs out soon. They were napping before I started the stream, so I wasn't too worried about it, but now they're all awake. Oh no, they definitely chewed something up. Alright, 1 second guys, I gotta address this real quick. I'll be right back. I'm just actually gonna park it right here and just put the BRB. I'll be right back, like probably like 5 minutes. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. My dogs, they decided to chew up a box I had in my room. It's the downside of having 3 dogs. How's the stream quality, by the way, guys? Is it choppy or anything? Hopefully it looks good. All right, we gotta get some
Yellow flag, be careful there.
pressures and temperatures back in these tires. Still waiting on these pressures to come up a little bit. You guys excited for the Formula One race? It was kind of sad to see Russell not get another shot in the Mercedes, but I am glad Hamilton is, you know, coming back and he got over COVID. That's no fun. All right, tire pressures are coming back up. I have a light that I got so you guys can see me in my room because I have the hue lights going. Ooh. And that's no bueno. And it's weird playing at night with that light in the in front of me. You guys didn't see that spin. That's me talking rather than driving. Hey, Speed, are you still there? He's probably doing the Saturday race. I was gonna see if he could send me some data so I could show you guys how to analyze driving. Oh man, that feels really good. Oh, Speed's behind me right now too. Oh no, I think Speed crashed behind us.
Yeah, mate. Fucking stupid gilded.
No, it's all good. What happened? You were like right behind me.
No, I was speaking to you, but fucking gilded wasn't.
Oh, gotcha.
Working.
That is not where you want to be up in that little bump there.
What do you want?
In sector 2.
What was that?
What do you want? Some data?
Yeah, I was gonna look at it just so I could show people how to compare driving line. I think the setup is really, really good. I might send it to you. It's a little bit different than the one that we came up, but it has a lot of grip out of through like stadium. I think they have a little bit more toe on the rear. That's why, and a little less camber. So we were running. That's from the Imola setup where we started. So it's got a little bit more camber on toe. Ah, crap. Well, I am making all types of mistakes now.
Well, if you want me to run that set and gather some data for you, send me it across.
Okay, yeah, 1 sec. Let me, I'm gonna practice pit entry real quick and I'll send it. It's kind of weird because it's like a turn, you know? It's like a turn and then, oh, there's the 60 kilometers speed limit. All right, we're gonna practice pit entry.
So weird how Gilder's working sometimes, and it's not others.
Did you try running it as an admin?
I do. I've not closed it down.
Oh, that's weird then.
Yeah. It's like all I did was just click on the application, and then click back into game, and it's working.
All right, we're gonna practice brake here. Oh yeah, I busted it. Well, that wasn't right. All right, let me send it to you. Let's move that here. Documents. What is it? ACC setups. I should really bookmark this. As much silver work as I do. Oh, why can't I send this? Weird. That's weird. It won't let me like drag drop onto the Discord.
Oh, it's probably because you've not got Discord in admin mode as well.
Alright, there you go. I sent it. Alright. Oh, I should not show my Discord like that. Hopefully, let me know if you guys have any questions. I think the setup's pretty much there, guys. I'm gonna have Speed try the setup, get some data, and we'll actually do some driver analysis to see where we can improve. The setup will be available on the RST Discord after the race. I don't want to post it before because it's kind of our edge, but after the race, I'll make it posted. We're gonna try to maybe start a service. I know a lot of you have been asking for private coaching for data analysis and setups, and we're really looking into that as a business model. RC is always going to receive updates and development time, but we need to look at other ways to generate revenue so we can hire more developers and get things growing like they should be. So we're hoping to do more setups and maybe some coaching. If you have any ideas for anything that you'd like us to see, please let me know. I am going to start doing more theory videos. This is kind of like just me, playing around, doing setups. You guys, like a live Q&A, can ask questions. And we can kind of work through this together. But those videos that I'm going to be doing, the theory videos, will be pretty much from the ground up. Of course, right as I send it to you, the session ends.
Yeah, it should be this. It's not the same next time. I've just turned the server off and back on.
Gotcha.
I'm in abuse.
By the way, when you're watching the stream, does the video quality look okay?
Mate, it looks better than what I'm looking at on my monitor whilst I'm racing. So
Oh, okay, good. This is the first time I streamed in such a long time, and it's everything's new, you know, like the new light, the new microphone. So I had no idea, but I'm glad it all works. You guys like the stream, be sure to hit the channel and subscribe or a like, or if you don't like it, dislike it. Any kind of activity helps bring people to the community and shares RST with everyone.
Green light, green light.
Hey, what's up, Cryptic? Hey, man, how's it going? We're just getting ready for an endurance race. Oh, dang. Moise, make sure when you do the roll gradients or pitch gradients that you have the car parameters typed in. If you don't, they might be high like that, and that's just because you don't have the settings configured. Be sure to check that out. GT3 car will be anywhere between 0.3 to 0.5. 0.5 is like on the high end. That's going to be something that's really lazy. 0.3 is on the low end. That's something you're going to want for like a dry track. I'm shooting for about 0.43 to 0.5 on the rear right now with this car. Again, we're just trying to get a lot of compliance with the suspension. Typically with the wet, it's all about compliance. I am gonna watch Speed do some laps here though. And a trick is if you go to drive and then you hit the shift and then you go to the car you want, you can actually see their delta. Hey, thanks, Cryptic. Hey,
how many laps do you want?
Just do like 5 or so. Just some good ones. Just so I was just wanting to show people on the Discord how you can look at the data to compare driver. To show them where I suck. Hey, Cryptic, be sure to plug your Discord on our Discord, man. We have a community section. Always welcome to, you know, post any videos or anything you're doing in there. It's for the community, so. But I do appreciate you plugging it, man. Appreciate it. So Jake, he's my teammate for this endurance race. We're, you know, in the Aston AMR V8. It's a really good car. We chose it because we're doing the IMLA 9-hour Jardier invite with RCI. We just want to keep it to a consistent car, really understand it. He's pretty much been a second faster than everyone else with the setup that we've been working on. I'm about a second behind him, so I'm pretty competitive, but we're hoping for a really good result here. We've only been practicing about 2 or 3 days. I've been putting a ton of practice into IMLA. IMLA will be a really cool race. If you guys don't know about it, it's on December 20th. It's got Jardier, you know, all the Adult King, Nils, Chris Hoke, James, all the big sim racers, and it's also got James Baldwin, which will be really cool to race against. I'm super excited. Me and Speed, the same guy that we're going to be racing tomorrow, are on a team for the IMLA race, so be sure to check that out. It's on December 20th. And it's super early for me, so it should be interesting to see how I do in early morning stint. But yeah, if you do drive and then shift F1, you can actually see their delta. So I can see, you know, his delta. It's a nice little endurance trick when you're doing endurance races, because if you just do the normal spectate, you can't really see what their delta is. So you can really see, you know, where they're losing time. One thing I want to show you guys too is RC on the new update. I actually am working on a way for you guys to enable auto save. So you can basically in the settings say I want data auto save, and what it will do is every time there's a new lap, it'll save that data to your disk. And the reason we're doing it is because when we have some people that have crashes and they're like, hey, I've done 50 laps and I just lost all my data, that's no fun. But also, what me and Speed Demon do is we have a Google Drive, and we both have it synced to our folders, and then we share that with one another. And it'll be really nice when we have the autosave, because I'll be able to get his data while he's still driving, and it'll sync to our desktop, which will be really, really nice. Looks like it's pushing really bad. Wonder what his tire pressures are. I wish you could see his tire pressures from here, but unfortunately you can't. super thirsty. Need to get a little hydrated. Super excited for the race tomorrow. Should be good. I was absolutely gutted about the race last weekend. I was rooting for my man Russell, man. Such an opportunity for him.
You'll see how high the tire pressures are when you see the data.
Yeah, I can see you like pushing really bad. You can go in and fix them. It's not gonna be any good data if it's just like way off, you know. The track looks a little less wet too.
Yeah, so
When it's less wet, is it pushing a lot more?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think that's going to be the balance, because I noticed that with the set that me and you've been developing too. This set's very, very similar, just very small differences in the dampening and then the camber and toe. But I noticed that with our setup too, is the more wet it gets, the better the setup gets. The more dry it gets, the more understeer we get, like everywhere basically.
Yeah, but that's just down to the tires and the stuff. You know, the drier it is, the more temperature you get in the tires.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like at the minute we're right in the sweet spot with the wet. You know, the way the track was wet in the last one.
Yeah, do you think this will be the wetness of the track at the start of the race?
I don't know. It could be like it was in that last section, or like this, or a different one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really know how the settings and everything work. I just pulled up my app for like RaceSync or whatever, and it's saying the track is only 20% wet, so it's really quite dry still.
Yeah, it's 10% less wet than what that previous session was.
Is it gonna max out at 30%, or is it can it go higher?
No, it can go higher.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can tell it's more drier because, like I said, the temperature's gone up on the tires, and obviously the pressure's gone right up.
Yeah, whenever you come in, let's annotate pressures and temperature. I can do it with the data actually, so we can start looking at that, because we haven't done that analysis yet, comparing the temperature and what pressures we'll need, because pretty much every race we've done it's at 9C or lower. Good thing we get into that out today and not tomorrow.
I was pushing it, see if I could get past him.
Yeah.
My fault.
Yeah, I was yesterday I logged on like later at night, and there was some traffic that I was like playing with. It's kind of challenging to travel here in wet conditions under traffic. It's a lot of downforce that you lose, you know. I was getting pushed off a lot more, and the braking zones I was having to brake a lot earlier than I thought. One thing I am gonna do, so this is the setup that we developed ourselves, guys, this V4. I'm curious what brake bias, 61.8. What do we got on this setup? This one's okay. Wow, 60%. We're way farther back on the rear brake bias. Let's look at the data again. I don't know. It's like hard to tell because I like these graphs to be all in one graph, but I got outvoted for the new RST because everyone thought it was hard to read. Let's see if so we have our thing synced up. So if I go to load, I bet I'll be able to see his data now. Not yet. It'll show up soon because I have it auto sync, which is really, really nice. But yeah, when we do the update for auto save, that'll be super nice. Because you'll just be able to run laps, and if someone has it enabled and they have a folder shared, you'll just get their data as they run laps. I'm gonna look at the damper speeds. Let's see if we can find any more potholes that are, or curbs that are causing us some issues here. So I'm mostly looking at high speed here. Let's zoom in on this section. This is corpse and stuff. I'm curious if it's mostly high speed or low speed through this section. The exit is where I was definitely feeling a little bit more. Yeah, it's looking really good actually. Let's see if the Wi-Fi has texted me. Alright, I'm gonna go let the dogs in real quick. Yeah, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go let the dogs in real quick. I'll be right back, guys. I gotta go let my dogs back in so they don't tear up my yard. Like 2 seconds. Got the motion rig plugged in now too. Sorry about that, guys. That's the pain of being a dad, a dog dad, and the wife is out of town, which is nice because I get to play as much racing as I want, but kind of a pain in the ass for the dogs. But they're awesome. I love them. Got 3 dogs and a cat, so it's kind of a zoo around here. Hopefully you guys see my new Le Mans track map. I actually made that with my new CNC. Pretty cool. I want to make a bunch more. But I figured only right to do a Le Mans.
Yeah, it should have loaded, mate.
Okay, cool. Thank you, sir. All right, so you can see I didn't have to do anything. I just hit load, and his data was right here. That's because we have Google Drive synced up. So I really encourage you guys, if you're on a team, to do that. Really, really nice feature. Maybe someday we'll look at maybe being able to connect clients to one another so you could just log into someone's RST and look. But for now, syncing is the best way to go, especially when we have the autosave. Jesus, you still did it 206. All right, let's go to... Okay, so if you guys get this bug, this happens to me. There's something...
That's it. The track's damp, but it's damp enough for wets.
Yeah.
So it's either, you know, you're never going to get temperature into the wets, into the dry side.
Yeah, right at 20%, that was what I found too. Like the other day I tried that, and 20%, dude, it was like slip show. I had way more grip with the wets, but it was like they were getting really hot, but it was still a little bit more. If you get this bug where you guys can't zoom out, I'm double clicking, left clicking, double clicking, nothing's happening.
Probably open up the ducts a bit more on this set.
You go to handling, double click, and then go back to temps.
Spikes up to about 100 degree on that rear right. Yeah, 104 degree on that rear right.
Yeah, that's definitely getting up there.
So
um,
I'll take another PSI out of the tire.
But you see, I went to handling, double clicked, and came back. The reason why it does that, there's a bug, and the reason why I'm trying to fix it for this next update, I still haven't 100% identified where it's coming from, but all of these graphs, they sync up to the handling differential tab. So for some reason, they're getting unsynced. So if you just go handling, double click it, it'll resync and it'll be fine. I'm gonna fix that. Don't worry, guys. That's a bug that definitely needs to be fixed, and I'll definitely fix it.
So you can go analysing that data whilst I get you some more with this update.
Oh, with the correct pressures and more brake duct.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. That sounds like a good idea. So you guys heard Speed Demon, and he was talking about brake ducts for the tire pressures and the tire temperatures. And that's something that we've really found with ACC is the brake ducts really cool down the tires quite a bit. So, you know, right now the track condition it's a little bit dicey. It's 20% wet and 13% or 13C. So it's a little bit too wet for the dries, the slicks, but it's a little bit too dry for the wets. It's in that kind of no man's zone. And we did some analysis. I think you're just better off going with the wets at 20% track wetness than trying to do the dries. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to open those brake ducts. Open that brake ducts is going to bring more cool ambient air into those tires, help cool them down more to try to help until the wetness comes up. The idea is you'll keep them cool during the dry track, and then you still want to keep them in the operating temperature at night when it's a lot colder. As long as they're on that bottom level of the operating window, they'll be fine. So that's what he's going to do. He just opened the brake ducts, stop the pressures a little bit, and hopefully he'll get some more data. But let's go ahead and look at some driver data here so you guys can see how I use it to see where I'm losing time. So with RST for the driver inputs, you don't really need the car parameters. Let's see. Oh, he did. I'm so proud of you. You actually entered the car parameters, the basic ones. Usually Speed doesn't do the car parameters.
I get my RST badge now.
Yeah, you're certified RST. He usually doesn't do the car parameters, so I'm just kind of busting his chops. That being said, you don't really need a lot of the car parameters for driver development setup work. So if you don't really need to do any driver setup work, you just, hey, I want to see someone's lap, see where I'm losing time. The only thing you really need is the tire diameters. And the reason why is we use in the throttle acceptance graph under driver, we use wheel slip to basically justify, you know, if you're getting on throttle okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is select his lap. I'm going to do the 206.7 because it's a little closer to what my times are. That 206.4 is a little bit quick. No point in doing a lap time that's 3 seconds faster than you. You're just going to be slow everywhere. It's a good place to, you know, get to eventually, but usually finding someone that's a second or two slower than you in the beginning can really help you dial it in and then work your way down. Especially if you like compare yourself to Nils. Nils is one of the fastest guys. We have a database full of his data, but if you're 4 seconds off the pace, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. So I would encourage you to do this kind of approach. So, you know, he's got a 206.7. I did a 207.6. So that's about a second difference. So let's use that. I'm just going to select my lap in the blue, his in the red. And the conditions are a little different. Ideally, these would be same conditions. So you have, you know, apples to apples comparison. But for, you know, being able to show you guys how I do this, it's okay. So the first thing you do is driver, you're going to go throttle. You're going to notice there is a lot of options. This was part of our last update. We really wanted to start focusing on driver development. RC has always been, you know, the premier telemetry software for setup work. Not so much for driver development. You know, other apps like Z1, Motec, they had some better driver development. So we added a ton of stuff that we used in real life. Some things that we picked up in, you know, some of the textbooks like Seegers. And we've got a lot of really good stuff in here now. I think there's 100 new graphs in total for driver development. What I would encourage you guys to do is click on overview though. This is going to be all your driver inputs essentially. in one view, and it's just a really good indication of, you know, differences in time, differences in speed, throttle, brake, steering, and gearing. This is pretty much all of the inputs that a driver has to his car are on this overview. And I do this to kind of, when I first look at the data, to kind of get a bird's eye view. And then once I go, oh, you know, this corner here, I'm, you know, way slower mid corner. I'm getting on throttle before him, but he's getting on throttle, you know, faster. Why is that? Or if I was losing time, why am I doing that? Maybe I'll look at the braking. Maybe I'll look at the throttle, right? So this is just a good overview. The two biggest graphs that are going to tell you where you're losing time are going to be your time slip and your speed. I use time slip as kind of the law for me. A lot of people use speed, and I see the reasoning for using speed, but for my personal gain and what I just found easiest to convey to people is time slip. Time slip is the difference between these two laps in time. So you can see as this graph goes up in the y-axis, I'm losing time to my base lap, which is the red lap that I have of speeds. And the way I do this is you have to think about what makes sense from a learning perspective. I spent a lot, like when I was going through college, I spent a lot of time about like biohacking, which is a buzzword. It has kind of a negative connotation now, but back then it wasn't used that way. And really what it is like, you know, learning optimization. There's a few guys that I would really recommend. Scott H. Young is definitely one. He did the MIT open courseware. He did like a computer science degree with that. Really, really good. He kind of categorized. He has a lot of good methods, and a lot of the things that I've learned from him. There's also a lot of other guys that you can follow that kind of talk about this thing. But from my non-professional, personal kind of experience, there's two things that will really speed up your ability to become a better driver. Number one is being able to consciously know where you're losing time and where you're gaining time. This can be kind of summarized in adjective, you know, awareness. You know, just turning a lot of laps, while that is increasing your muscle memory and improving your ability to replicate that action, you might be practicing the wrong things. So being aware, hey, I think I can carry, you know, 2 kilometers faster mid-corner, or if I get on the brake just a little bit sooner, I can get on throttle a lot sooner. You know, just being kind of cognizant of those things. If you go into zombie mode, you're not going to learn as fast as you would as if you were fully aware of what is going on. And then the other thing is practice. There's just no replacement for practice and just, you know, working on your craft. And those things together will really improve you. One of the things that RST is really good for, especially with the new NILS database, is awareness. A lot of times when you're on the limit, it's really hard to understand where you're losing time. The way you're driving the car is on the limit. You know, the way you're taking that corner, you're got that steering a lot. You're getting understeer, you're getting oversteer. Those tires cannot do any more grip than what you're asking for them. The difference between someone like NILS and the typical sim racer is they know basically how to optimize that corner for the inputs, if that makes sense. So they're not just driving a line. They know how they can get the most mid-corner speed. They know how they can brake the latest. They know how they can get on throttle earlier. And if there's one thing I know, slow in, fast out is kind of cliche at this point, is very true, especially with games like iRacing and ACC. Other games, like I know Race Room is not necessarily as much. You can carry a little bit more mid-corner, but with ACC and iRacing, it's very sensitive to getting on throttle early, which if you look at Neil's data, you'll see he gets on throttle earlier than like almost anyone I've ever seen. And it does the way that he drives the car. A lot of people, they drive the car, they don't try to get too much rotation. The reason Nils can get on throttle so much earlier than everyone else is he's getting a lot of rotation corner entry, and then he can just straighten it out and get on throttle while other people are waiting for the car to set. And those are the things that you're going to see in the data, right? So that's what I was trying to say is when you're driving, it's not necessarily the best place to understand where you're losing time because you are on the limit. The difference is you're not on the optimal limit. You're on your limit. So this is where data analysis comes into play because you can say, oh, shit, I'm losing 3/10. I should not do the corner the way that I'm doing it, and I should do it this way. So what I would recommend and what I do personally is when I do this data, so I'm a second off speed, but typically I'm usually about 2 seconds off speed. I've done some practice, right? So I narrowed it down. But what I try to do is pick 2 corners, no more than 2, no less than 2. And what these 2 corners are where I'm losing the most time. When you do a lap, you want to focus on these 2 corners specifically. You still want to try to do good on the rest of the lap, but on those 2 corners, you really want to look at the data, think about what you need to change, and then consciously practice that change on those 2 corners. And the reason why I say 2 corners and not, the whole lap is if you try to improve the whole lap, you're not really going to get anywhere. You're not really going to think about, oh, what did I do differently or what did I do wrong? If you focus on 2 laps, you can really break it down what you're doing, what you need to change, and how to improve it. So I choose 2 laps I'm losing the most time, and then I look at the data, and I'm going to show you how I look at the data, but I look at the data, and then I work on consciously making whatever they're doing something that I'm doing, and then I try to replicate that through practice, right? I'm like, oh, I'm getting on brake, 20 meters too late. I do like 3 laps, and then I come back. Okay, did I do better or do I worse? Oh, I'm braking too soon now. I need to, do a little bit earlier or whatever. Using that positive feedback loops are the quickest way to learn things. And if you're not looking at data, you're just turning laps, you're not getting that positive feedback. And if you're not taking a break every 1 or 2 laps to compare what you just did against what you're trying to do, it's not as effective either. So, for example, for here, what I would do is I would look at where I'm losing the most time. And it's pretty obvious, where I'm losing the time here. But one way to do it is you don't really care about the mid corner, because you might have a different line where you gain a bunch of time because you're quick into the corner but laid out on the corner, right? And that's going to look like a positive and negative. What you want to look at is at the beginning of the braking zone to the beginning of the braking zone of the next corner. That is your lap time delta. So for this corner for entry to maggots, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, okay, where did I start the brake? Right here. Okay, I was at 0.22 seconds down off of speed, so I'm already 2/10 below. What did I do at the next corner in terms of speed? And this one's a little different because these are technically 2 turns, but for all inclusive purposes, I'm just going to do this one. I'm already at 3/10. So I lost 3/10 in Beckett's and maggots. So that's probably one of the biggest corners I'm losing a lot of time. Let's look at this next one. So this corner to this corner, I've only lost pretty much less than 1/10. So I'm really not worried about that corner. So this corner, 0.56. And again, this is like kind of like 2 corners. So you could do it as one. I would treat it as 1 corner time slip because they're linked corners, right? So if you have a bad entry, you're going to have a bad exit. So I'll just do here 0.56. The beginning of the next one is 0.72. So I lost 0.16 tenths there. So that's a pretty good delta too. Let's look here. What was that? 0.71, 0.8. So about 1/10. I lost about 0.94, about 1/10. And this one's going to be a big one, I think. So 104. Yeah, I lost. What is that? 1/10. So that was actually not too bad either. So my 2 biggest corners where I'm losing a ton of time is Beckett's and maggots, and then Stowe. Not Stowe. What was the corner? Yeah, this one, which is Stadium, which I already knew I was losing a lot of time in Stadium. So let's focus on those 2 corners and let's see what speed is doing differently that I'm not. So not switching corners, I'm just going to look at time slip. Again, time slip is really good to identify what corners are slow. But let's look at speed. Speed is going to kind of give you a better indication of, oh, you're slow on entry, you're slow on exit, what's going on. Time slip is just telling you, hey, you're losing time. Speed is going to be a little bit better as to saying why you're losing the time. And that's why a lot of people use speed instead of time slip to compare. And I see the reasoning why. It makes a lot of sense. And a lot of real life, engineers, that's what they do. But for me, the identification of where I'm losing time, I use time slip. I just think it's easier. Then I go to speed to say, okay, what's going on here? So what I will do is just zoom into the corner in question, and let's just go through the speed trace. So if I look at what's going on here, again, Speed Demon, the base lap is going to be red. My lap is going to be blue. You can see he's getting on the brake much later than I am. If you zoom in, you'll get some indication of, distance here. So that's like 133. And then he gets on the throttle, off the throttle at 135. So 2%, and this is kind of the shitty part. ACC doesn't give you track distance in terms of meters. It gives you in terms of a percentage of the track distance. So if you really want to work that into meters, you have to take the track distance. You just look at Wikipedia. Hey, what's the track distance of the Silverstone? Times that by 2%, and that's in meters. Okay, thanks, Pete. I'll do it in just a second. For me, I just know, hey, I need to brake much later than he does. So you can see the first thing he's doing is braking later than me. And then if we look at speed, I'm braking a little bit more. You can see the speed delta between these two lines is getting farther apart, which means I'm slowing down more than he is. And then it looks like on the exit here of the second, so I don't know if that's Beckett's or Maggots, but it's the second link turn, the second left right-hander. I'm not slowing down as much. He's slowing down more. That delta in speed is coming closer. And then if we look at what's going on here, I'm carrying way more mid-corner speed on the exit, but we pretty much get on the same exit speed because I get on throttle more mid-corner, but later on throttle. He's less mid-corner, but earlier on throttle, and it just somehow kind of works out in the end. But you can see by the exit, I've already lost all that time. So it's really coming down to the braking. That's going to be the major differences between me and Speed Demon. And then once I change this braking, it's going to allow me to get on throttle, which isn't really going to help my exit because I already have the exit speed. It's just going to be a slightly different way of doing it. So if you look at the gearing, you can see we have pretty similar gearing. I'm going down to second, and he's staying in third. I'm probably pushing here, and I'm trying to downshift to be able to unlock the differential to get some more rotation. So that's why I do. It's not really a good habit to do. Definitely don't do that in real life because your engineer will yell at you because you're going to break the diff. It's sim racing. I don't care. So I do it sometimes. So let's look at the braking and throttle inputs here. So you can see these are braking and throttle, and they're kind of hard to read, I think, in this format. So I always go to the throttle or braking to separate them out. But you can see this is what's going on. The steering, we have pretty much the exact same steering input. Very, very similar here. He's holding way more steering input than I am for the right-hander, the second right-hander. Than I am, but I'm trying to, so he's turning more at the beginning of that turn. I'm trying to save it by turning more on the exit, which you can see I have more mid-corner speed, so I'm pushing out a lot more than he is. So let's go ahead. Nils, when I was talking to Nils is a really good coach from Data. If you need a coach for driver development, definitely look him up. Me and him had some really good conversations, and he definitely knows what he's talking about, guys. He's not only quick, but he's very analytical, and he can break down what he's doing and communicate that to you. So it's really good, resource to use if you have the means to, get his coaching. That being said, I did talk to him, and he did have a really good tip. Is the thing that usually that he does is he identifies what the end result was, and then he works backwards from that. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm, late braking here. That's my issue, right? Well, that might not be your issue. My issue here is I'm overslowing the car, which if I'm overslowing the car, braking earlier should reduce that, right? But it's causing my issue. So I'm going to look at this mid-corner speed. Why am I slowing down more mid-corner than speed? Is it due to my line? Is it due to, inputs? What's going on? And then work backwards to get to there. A lot of time it's exit. Your corner exit's too slow. So learning why your exit's too slow. Oh, I'm too late on brakes or whatever is usually what happens. But this is a slightly different scenario. So let's kind of look at the throttle and brake inputs. Steering inputs very similar. Again, he's turning more on the entry. I'm turning more on the exit. And that's because I'm covering more mid-corner speed than he is. I'm trying to make that corner, whereas he already has it turned in. So where I'm losing a lot of time, really, is I've pretty much lost all of my time on the entry exit corner. And if you look at, you know, the so if we think about this turn, it's a left-hander, and then you pretty much just take the left-hander flat, and then you just a little bit of brake to get the nose turned in, and you take a ton of turn for the right-hander, and you can just basically cut it a lot, right? And I am braking more than what speed is braking there, and he's covering way more speed there. So that's where he's making a ton of time here. You can see I'm at 178 of my speed. He's at 193. So he's at, what is that, 15K faster in that corner than I am. 15K is huge, guys. You should be within 2K. When you're doing, like, when you're trying to see how consistent you are, you should be within 2K of your mid-corner speed every time. You can see I'm way slow here. So I'm definitely doing something wrong. So let's just look at here. We pretty much get off throttle at the exact same point here. But you can see he's much earlier to get on throttle than I am. Again, he's this red line. I'm the blue line. You can see how much earlier he's getting on throttle compared to me. And this is something I'm doing that's really bad. You can see, let's look at the shape of this input. So this is where I was saying it gets hard to read sometimes. So let's go to throttle. This is just going to show us just throttle. And we'll look at brake for just brake. So this is a really bad habit that I do a lot of the time. I overslow the car and I realize it subconsciously. So I hold some throttle input to maintain my speed, which just causes the car to reduce the amount of lateral G's that I can pull through here. And you can actually see it through here, which I'll show you here below. So if we just look at this shape, the end is fine. We're both getting off throttle at the same point, but he is getting on throttle way earlier than me. So if you look at his shape, he's going from 0 to 100 pretty quick here. It's a little bit of a slope. He's a little bit smoother, but it's pretty immediate. There's no, holding of throttle. What I'm doing is, sorry, I zoomed out, is I'm getting on throttle earlier and holding like 10% throttle, and then much later getting on full throttle, right? We have a pretty similar shape on how fast we get onto 100% throttle, which is throttle smoothness, which I'll show you. But I'm holding this throttle, and that's going to do nothing but push me through the corner. That's not going to give me the rotation I need. Driver 61 always talks about you either need to be on brakes or on the throttle. That's not true. If you have mid-corner speed, you're going to get the most lateral grip by just steering input. No throttle, no brake. Anytime you add throttle or add brake, that's going to start reducing that lateral G. So mid-corner here, I'm getting on throttle. I'm reducing my lateral G while Speed Demon is not on the throttle or brake, and he's purely holding his steering angle, which is going to give him more lateral G. And you can actually see it in the lateral G graph that's underneath it, and that's why we have it. So now you guys are going to kind of understand like why we have these graphs the way we do. If we look at this lateral G, you can see, pretty much corner entry, we're very, very similar. But look, as soon as I'm on like 10% throttle, I go to about 1 G. Speed's at 1.86 G. He's almost double the G's that I'm at. And it's because I basically got on throttle way earlier. And just held it, and rather than just letting the car coast, get rotated, and then punching it, which in rain is going to make a big difference, because rain is going to make a huge difference with lateral. Most racing in rain is like point and shoot. Like you get the car rotated, then you get on the gas. It's not as much trail braking as you do in like a dry environment. So this is really, really hurting me. So this is something that I'm going to try to improve next time I go out. So remember, you pick 2 corners, you consciously think, what am I going to change? Okay, I'm getting on that throttle the exact same, I'm getting on throttle and holding it. I need to just wait, coast, get the car rotated, then punch it. So this is something I'm actively going to try to focus on improving. If we look at the throttle input, into the corner. Again, this is braking, or I'm getting off throttle much later than he is. And just ignore this blimp. This is him downshifting. But you can see pretty much 2% of the total track width of Silverstone is him braking deeper than me. So that's something I'm going to try to focus too, is not braking, getting off throttle as late. So this is getting off throttle. This isn't necessarily getting on brake. And let's look at the throttle speed, just because I want to show you guys what this is. So throttle speed is basically how fast you punch it. So you can see the slope of this line is a little bit steeper than the slope of this line. This is a little bit more shallow, even though he's getting on there earlier. That's this slope is the speed, or the smoothness. And it's this third graph down here, which is called throttle speed. You can see he's getting on throttle speed a little bit slower. So, you know, like 0.22. Let's see if I can do this here. Yeah, so if I were to average this line, it would be like right, you know, like right around here, which is like 2.3. There'd be like a horizontal line through 2.3. You can see my blue line is above his line, and it's because I'm punching it harder, which could produce more wheel slip. And then 1 second, guys, my wife's calling. Let me just give it 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Wife was calling. She's out of town, so I just make sure everything's okay. But you can see my blue line's higher than his if we were to average this line, and that just is because I'm getting on throttle quicker than he is. Not sooner, just 100% throttle faster, which can produce more wheel spin, which is this bottom graph right here. So this is another really good graph to look at. And this is the one you do need the car parameters dialed in. Otherwise, you won't get this graph. So if you see everything else but no thing, make sure that both laps have car parameters and specifically tire diameters dialed in. So he's getting on throttle, and it's a little bit, you know, smoother than I am. The speed is a little bit higher than I am. And you can see that in the wheel spin. So he's the green and yellow line. I'm the red and blue line. And you can see he produces more wheel spin sooner than I do because he's getting on the throttle sooner than I am. But look, as soon as I hit 100% throttle, I'm getting way more wheel spin than he is, like 3% more wheel spin. So this is probably psychologically where I think I'm on the limit, right? I'm getting on the throttle where I think the soonest I can, and I'm getting a ton of wheel spin. Well, the difference is he's smoother, so he produces less wheel spin, so he feels like he can get on throttle sooner. So this is where data like really comes into play, and it's really, really nice. So I know if I get on throttle sooner but just less aggressive, I'm not going to have as much wheel spin, which will allow me to keep the grip through the turn. Let's go to the braking. So we know we need to do differently on brake throttle. The big difference is I need to not hold 10% throttle on the, what is that? Over the apex. I think that's, yeah, over the apex. I just need to let it rotate in. Now let's look at braking and see what's going on here. So this is the exact same kind of corner, but I'm just zoomed in and I'm just seeing braking through here. So he's the red, I'm the blue. So you can see going into the maggots or beckets, I don't know which one it is. He's braking harder. His peak is much higher than it. He's getting up to 100%. I'm only at 80, but I'm braking less aggressive. That means this is wider. You see how my blue is wider than his red? I'm getting on brake earlier and I'm releasing it later. What I really need to do is brake harder and be less aggressive here. That's why I'm over slowing the car. Is I'm braking way too long. I just need to tap it, get it rotated, and hit it. And And then we have a slight difference here. So you remember how I said, oh, here I was covering more mid corner because his speed got closer to mine. He's again braking super hard, whereas I'm barely braking. So we kind of made it up there. And then he's got a little bit of trail brake to get the car rotated, whereas I'm not doing any trail brake. Let me compare that to another lap just to make sure I'm doing the exact same thing every lap, which it does look like that. I'm not really trail braking at all on that corner entry of. I'm gonna get really annoyed if I don't memorize these corner names. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. Sorry, guys. And one thing, this seems really slow, I know, but I'm really explaining these concepts to you guys. Usually I look at these and within like 2 minutes, I'm already out on track practicing. It's just something you'll pick up over time. But I'm going super slow to explain everything that I would think of when I'm, going through this. So let's look at these track maps so I'm not. So Beckett's and then, Maggots and then Beckett. So, okay. And then Chapel's the king, but I don't think that's really deserves a name. It's like not even a turn. So Maggots, Beckett. So Maggots is first. So the entry to Beckett's, I'm not trail braking, which I probably should be. Yeah, I'm taking this line completely different. One thing I want to see too is because these inputs are so different, but the end result is a pretty similar exit speed. I want to look at the driving line because that seems really far off. So yeah, you can see a huge difference here. Okay. So driving line, I know you guys would prefer to have a track map and you can compare lines to see how you're doing. It's not really possible because to do that, you would have to define what the inside limit of the track is, the outside limit is, and then load that anytime someone is. And we just support too many games, and it's just not possible. We're talking about how we can do it in the future. Maybe we do it like this, but then there's an option for you to do it that way. We're talking about different ideas. But for now, you can use the driving line and the corner radius and the curvature. So corner radius is basically, it looks really weird, but it's the corner radius of the turn that you're doing. So if you see, the lower side sooner in the corner, it means you're a late apex. If it's later, it means an early apex. It's just opposite of like what you would think. What I like to do though is the inverse, which is the curvature, and that is a clear cut of what's going on here. It's basically the opposite of this. So you can see, let's look at the entry to Beckett's. We're very, very similar. The difference is I'm straightening out and he's holding it. And then I'm turning in way earlier than he is. So I'm trying to get on that green curb and he's going to take a late apex there. And that's going to give him a much better... Let's see. One second. So I have to think about track rail. So it's the left, and then the right. Okay, yeah, this is the left-hander. So I'm turning way earlier than he is. And then again, okay, so I see what's going on. I'm turning earlier. It's putting me wider into, what is that name again? Into Beckett's. And then he's staying earlier, like holding the exit to the left a little bit more, and then trail braking, getting it rotated, and he's on throttle way earlier than me. So there is a difference in line here. So you can see the blue when it peaks like this. It just means I'm basically, that's like where I'm hitting the apex, essentially. So we're going to try to make that line. So braking, so there's two things for this corner, and I'm not going to go to the other corner I was losing a lot of time because we already spent a lot of time looking at this one. What I'm going to focus is this section only is I need to brake more aggressive, meaning reduce the distance between the braking inputs and a higher peak, and I need to not hold 10% throttle and just punch it. So what we're going to do is Speed sent us some more data with the correct tire pressure. So I'm going to load that real quick. And if you guys have questions or anything, please let me know. I know I'm kind of going kind of quick here. And he did a 205.3. Oh my God, 205.2. 205.2, man. Brutal. Let's see, what is the track wetness? Track notes is still 20%, so it really hasn't got too much. So I just loaded here, and you can still see we're doing pretty much the same thing here. Yeah, so I'm less aggressive, and he brakes harder, which means he ultimately slows the car down less than I do. And then throttle. Let's look. That's not a good lap. Yeah, I'm getting on throttle a little bit too late here. I actually did a not too bad job there. So let's focus on these two things. So what I'm going to do is actually leave this open like this. And I'm just going to load up the overview because I can see everything in one go. And I'm just going to focus on improving this corner. So I'm going to leave. I think the braking is the biggest issue we have here. I need to really fix this. So what we're going to do is, let's see, rename this real quick. Speed Demons. Make sure my dogs are still here. Speeds data. And I'm going to close these others real quick. We have a lot of sessions in here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and delete these because we don't really need them anymore. So you can just click the delete button and it'll delete them out. And then we are going to go ahead and load up the setup. Oh, did you, you didn't send the setup, did you, with the corrected tire pressures?
I can do. I'll take 2 seconds.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. I just don't remember. I don't know that you changed them to. And before I forget, guys, let's go ahead and switch this bad boy over. And don't be scared to ask any questions, guys. There's no such thing as a stupid question. We're trying to make data analysis more accessible to sim racers, and I know
It definitely gets spicy after a couple of laps.
Oh yeah, is it tire wear? Because it's not as wet.
Yeah, you just munching the tires.
Yeah, it still says 20% wet. All right. The name. All right, we need to go to ACC. Why didn't I not have this saved yet? I'm gonna do that right now, guys. And cool trick with ACC, one really nice feature, which I don't know if it's a feature or a bug, is you don't have to load out of the game to load a setup. You just throw it in the folder. You have to exit and hit this load button. When you hit this load button, I think it queries for what's in there. But if you hit that, it'll show up. So this is the one, the corrected tire pressures that Speed just sent me. And then let's go ahead and get it.
Low tire pressure. Stay clear of the curbs.
Let's my motion rig's not on. Let's start that up. If you guys can hear the motion rig and it's annoying you guys, let me know, please, and I'll figure something out. I didn't have it on earlier because I forgot, but I did plug it in when I went to go pick up the dogs. So I do, one nice thing is I don't know if you guys see my rig.
You might want to take a little bit more out the rear pressures.
Okay, like what, like 0.2, 0.3?
Yeah.
Okay. I have pictures of my setup on the Discord. Check it out. I've actually built my own motion rig, and I actually have vibration motors in my seat, which will go off if the ABS kicks in, which is a really, really powerful feedback loop for me. I really, really like it. I don't know if I got more competitive if I would use it, because you might not have that in the future, and if you build a skill set of looking for it, it might be detrimental. But you can see here, I can, when this ABS goes active, I can feel it. And the reason why is you want to be right on the threshold for the ABS, but if you engage the ABS, you'll actually break less than if you weren't engaging it, or just like right on the limit. So you just want to use it to save you, but you know, you don't want to abuse it. So I have that. When I start feeling the vibration motor shaking, I start to reduce my brake pressure a little bit, and it does wonders for me. And then the other thing is the motion here, which is really cool. I thought it was gonna be way more of an advantage, I guess you could say. Like, I thought being able to sense, you know, like the force of the car and like feeling the motion would give me an advantage. It doesn't. It's a really cool immersion factor. It's awesome. It feels amazing when you hit a curb and you get jolted. And doing the seat mover, it's like really fast. It's not like a full motion rig where there's a lot of latency. It's like really, really quick. It's really snappy. It's really violent, like a rail car. But it totally is just immersion. But I love it, and I would never want to drive without it, to be honest. Which probably slows me down in the end, but yeah. I don't know if I'll ever be one of the quickest guys, so might as well enjoy it.
Car on the left. Clear on the left. Yellow flag in sector 2.
All right, let's get some tire, we call them T's and P's, but temperatures and pressures into these tires. Oh man, they're already red. Are we, we're not tire set limited, are we?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say, if the race is like that, we'll go through so many tires. They're like red already on my outlap.
Be careful.
Do you think the brake ducts help much with wet tires? Because it's mostly the tread that's overheating, whereas slicks, it's like the bulk temperature that overheats. I wonder if it has the same effect.
It helps a little bit, but like you say, you're overheating the tread, not the carcass.
Yeah.
Yellow flag
So
in sector 2.
the brake ducts have really good, you know, with carcass temp.
It's like super cold in my room. We got that AC blowing. Hopefully you guys can't hear it.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
A little trail brake there. My tires are on fire. Sorry if you guys can hear my dogs. I think my wife is home. A little wide there.
And that's where our silver set might be quite good, is because it's not got as much toe and that in it, so we're not scrubbing.
Yeah, we did. I remember we I forget what race it was. We did do toe testing, and it didn't seem like it made that much of a difference. But I wonder if it does with the wet tires because of the tread. Definitely worth trying. I think the toe on the rear really helps on stadium. Like the exit on that like slow left-hander is really good with the more toe. All right, let's really practice those inputs.
Yellow flag accepted. Yellow flag in. Watch out.
Probably doesn't help that my tires are red. All right, guys. Let's do one more lap and then we'll compare. And then again, you just start like a rinse and repeat cycle to see where you need to improve. Yeah, dude, my rear left's absolutely knackered. It's like fully red. Oop, yep, there it goes. Hey, what's up, Peter? How's it going, bud? All right, let's go ahead and go back to the pits. Let's see if we improved that last lap at all. The driver input that we were talking about improving. So let's just load it in. And there we go, guys. So I probably wasn't any quicker through there. I probably actually lost time. Yeah, it's actually way slower. But that's part of the learning process is you adjust this and you keep trying. And you keep getting better until eventually you got it. So, you know, this is the braking now after consciously trying to improve it. This was the braking before. Oh, that was not before. I deleted the lap with before data, but it was way wider. And you can see I'm carrying way more mid-corner speed now. I'm actually slightly faster. So I need to brake a little bit more here. I'm a little bit too aggressive. I need to maybe a little bit more brake. And then I can brake a little bit later. That shape is really good. I just need to go a little bit later into the corner. And then there's some trail brake, but he's trail braking much earlier than me. You can see right here. I was trying to trail brake kind of mid-corner. He trail brakes on the entry. And that's probably why I got on throttle late. Let's see if we compare throttle. I'm not holding that throttle now, which is really, really good. And we have the same wheel slip at the end. I could get on the throttle more aggressively here. So I need to really focus on getting throttle really early on this corner here. He's pretty much on throttle right at mid corner, whereas I'm not. So I need to really focus on that. So, all right, we know we need to improve. It's back to it. Basically, braking's a lot better. I could brake a little bit more on the entry, a little bit later on the second entry, and I need to trail brake earlier into the exit. And then throttle just way later. But this is a lot closer to what Speed's doing than what I was doing, right? So now I just need to keep practicing it. So let's load it. Have you tried less toe? Are you running that right now?
Yeah, I'm running RSAT right now. I just need to sort the tire pressures out before I run it.
Oh, the original set that we had like a while ago.
Yeah, our current set.
Okay.
I'm running that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that probably will be slightly better. I think so, at least. I'm gonna start going to that set too. So again, this set will be available on the Discord, guys. So this is why you want to do a lot of testing, because we had a really good set, but we did the setup for a very specific condition, right? It was a lot more wet on the track. The temperatures on the tires are a lot cooler. Now we're having an issue where we're overloading the rear tires, which requires a different setup approach. So this is why you do a lot of testing. You have to think about, okay, we make some changes. We increased the toe on the rear, more toe in to give us more stability and traction out of, I think it's called Stadium. Let's see, club maybe. Yeah, out of club through Val and club, but it's hurting us in these higher temperatures. So what we need to do is 24.2. What did he have here? Oh, geez. Wow, you had way different PSIs than our original set, didn't you? Let's load it again. I don't know if I... let's just try 2 PSI. I have no idea. 24.5 and 24.5. And then we have way less toe here. I'm gonna try more brake ducts too. And then let's see. Wetness is still at 20%. I'm gonna test the brake duct theory too. See if it makes a difference. One thing that
I think this is my first flying lap. And my tyres aren't bright red like the one before.
Nice. Yeah, it's probably
so
so then.
And I've not even sorted the PSIs out. I'm up at nearly 33 PSI on the tyres.
Is that why they need 3 PSI? I only dropped them 2.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm 32.7 on the front left, 32 on the front right, 33 and 33 on the rears. And to be honest, we're on like 3.2 on the brake ducts at the minute on this.
Yellow flag is up. Watch out in front. Yellow flag in sector 1.
Oh my gosh. I need to not push when I don't have pressures.
Yellow flag is up. Be careful.
All right. Can't believe that wasn't a cut. That felt really good, like compared to what speed does, I think. Show up right really early there. Wait 1 second, I'm live. That's my wife, guys, if you guys can see her on camera. Yeah, I'm streaming. I can't hear you. I'm super excited for this race tomorrow, guys. Be sure to check it out if you're not participating. I'll be streaming the whole race tomorrow. Should be really, really good, I think. Man, my rears are still red. They're like orange, I guess.
I think having them overinflated helps the temperature.
Yeah, probably. Mine are at 31.2. There we go. That was good. I don't have a delta here, unfortunately, but I know that was good.
Definitely having the correct pressure over the temperature, the car feels better.
Yeah, this game is so tire pressure sensitive, it's insane. It's like the first thing you should always check.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
Ah, that was a lot of time lost. All right, let's see what that is gonna give us. Nice, 206.
That's the fastest lap.
The car was so balanced, it just no grip. That was funny. Well, that wasn't it. Brake ducts have like very little change on the temperatures too. Come on, get in there. I'm gonna catch this guy. They've done a really good job with this game, Kunos has. I remember when it first came out, I was like so unimpressed. It's like really good now. I wish they had more data though, but it's a great sim to drive. Oh, he went wide.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
I had to wait for the throttle because it was starting to drift off again. I just have my key on this rear view. I need to make it like a little bit better spot though. Man, it's such on the limit through club, it's insane. Ooh. Oh, he blocked it. That was good on him. This car is very raceable in the rain. Very forgiving.
Yellow flag in sector 2.
We're gonna get a good run here on him. Let's go.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
Oh no. Eee. That was my bad. I tried to sneak it on the inside and I totally screwed him. Let's watch that replay. That was totally my bad. I tried to sneak it on the inside and let's see.
You killing people again.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, these are the wets, Peter. It's not, the track's not that wet, so it's a little bit of a issue right now. It's only 20% wet. Look at this. Ooh. Oh yeah, I totally slid into him. Almost had it though. That would have been sick. I just got a little bit loose on the curve, and it kind of spat me out a little bit. That's my bad. All right, let's see. Let's look at the data real quick. Think we did better there, but I'm not 100%. All right, let's look. Oh yeah, much better. Look at that. Look at the speed delta. Way better. Let's see. Let's look at this 206.5 before the tires are just gone. Lost a little time there. It was a little too aggressive. Yeah, that braking's is so hard to get right. This is good though. One thing is time slip. Instead of overview, you look at time slip. There's time slip rate, and that'll tell you the rate at which you're losing time. So it's kind of like the acceleration, essentially. So you can see it's pretty quick there. Cool. But yeah, that's how I would do it, guys. Just keep going through the data, find a track, and then once you basically mastered that input, what you're gonna do is essentially move on to the next, you know, 2 corners where you're losing a lot of time, and you keep doing that until essentially you're, you know, within a tenth or two. Whenever you get really to the fine details, it's really going to come down to your execution of those corners, not necessarily you knowing how to take those corners. You'll know how to take the corners, you just won't be executing it correctly. Like you'll make a little mistake on the throttle input or the brake, but you know how to do it. At that point, you typically will see like a half a tenth or a tenth every corner, which will add up. Like that's my problem with Niels right now, and I'm trying to follow his MLA data. I'm like half a tenth down every corner, and I'm pretty much doing the exact same thing but it's just the way I'm executing it. I'm just losing that little time, and then over a lap, that's a lot of time essentially. So we're in P6 right now. It's not too bad. We're about a second off speed, but speed's way out in front of everyone right now. If I could get within 5/10 of speed, I'd be pretty happy. I really hope it rains more on tomorrow, because the reason it's not the rain's the same amount of rain as what we've gone the last 2 sessions. There's like way more cars on the track. That's why the track is not as wet. Let's go ahead and look though. Let's see where we're losing time against like B-check. So pretty much sector 1, not too bad. Sector 2, I'm losing like 2-3 tenths. Yeah, it's all sector 2. I'm losing all that time.
No, it's not as wet as the other session.
Yeah. I think it's because all the cars are drawing the line, because it's raining the 1 row of rain, which is what the other session was.
Yeah, but the other session was wet. When it started, this was damp.
Oh.
So there wasn't as much water down.
Gotcha. So it just isn't really changing. It just is staying like what it was at the start and just static.
Yeah. You can tell it's not as wet because your wipers aren't. Well, your wipers aren't doing as. No, let me fucking rephrase.
Yeah.
There's not enough. There's no water on the windscreen as where there was in the other session.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I'll be right back, guys. The wife needs something. I need to go see if she needs help with something. I'll just be right back, 2-3 minutes, and we'll turn some more laps and see if we can improve. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and write them in the comment chat, and when we get back, I'll address them, and then we can go from there. All right, be back, guys. All right, and we're back, guys. Sorry about that. Just had to go help her real quick. We're gonna do a few more laps, probably 4 or 5, and then we're probably gonna go ahead and get off. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Peter did ask, are the new wets only on the 2020 version cars? And honestly, I'm not sure. I don't really notice that much of a difference between these wets and the other wets. So I don't know if they actually got updated. I know the new DHE tires, which are the new 2020 compound, those feel a lot different. But I don't know if they carried over to the wets or not. I don't really follow the patch notes all that much. I'd be really interested if anyone does know to post in the comments. But yeah, they feel pretty similar to the other previous year tires that they did get changed. We're just having an issue with the tire temperatures because the track is barely wet right now. And it's wreaking havoc on our tires because it's like too dry for wets,
Low tire pressure.
but not so they're just like getting hot really easily, which kind of has me worried that the race tomorrow will do that. If so, it's gonna be a long 4 hours, but we'll have to see. Oh, he just died.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
Yeah, you can tell there's so much more grip when the tires aren't red right now. Gotta stay off that curb. Curb is super dangerous.
Yellow flag ahead. Watch out.
Our set keeps the tyres about 3 degrees colder. Tyres.
What, about 3 degrees colder?
The tyre temps.
Oh, with less toe or more brake, Doug?
Less. Just our set in general. I don't know
Oh, gotcha.
what's doing it.
Yeah, they're pretty similar. Must be the toe. Should probably try to get it out of in second. Pretty much dead on with our delta. We're not really improving or decreasing.
Yellow flag is set.
Garfield's absolutely glued though. Again, this setup will be available on the RST Discord after the race tomorrow. The race is at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 7 p.m. GMT for you Europeans. Be sure to check it out. I think it'll be a really good race. I think me and Speed Demon are going to be very competitive for this race. And then it's on for the 9 hours of IMLA on December 20th.
Which set are you on at the minute?
Yours, the R set, like the one we're gonna race tomorrow. Why?
No, I just wondered.
It's like so, I don't know, I feel like I could drive this easily for 4 hours, you know? I think it's exactly what we need. I'm just hoping we don't have a track like this, because we're going to go through tires like crazy if we do. But so will everyone else, I guess. Keeping it pretty consistent, always within like a tenth or two. Oh man, I don't know, that was barely. All right, guys. Let's practice our That was close. All right, guys, that is going to be it for the stream today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments, just leave it in the comments after the stream. I'll try to answer anyone's comments. We're going to start trying to do these kind of streams more often, as well as start up the theory videos. I got a bunch of new gear. Hopefully it will help make that process a little bit easier so I can do it a little bit more often. But thank you for tuning in